ground as to how things are going in Rwanda, and we speak to Voice of America's Mariama Diallo, who is a journalist, giving us an update now from the capital, Kigali. Mariama, good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time. Let's start with understanding the Rwandan electoral system. So for the first time this year, you're going to have both the presidential and legislative elections taking place together. My understanding is that this is a 3-day sort of process for these elections, because there is a vote, the initial vote, and then there are special votes somewhere in between, and then everybody else gets to vote. Just unpack it for us.
Yes, I think this was actually this is the first time they've tried to combine the two, basically the parliamentary and the presidential elections. I think the chairman, the National Electoral Commission chairman yesterday talked about it, talked about maybe, just trying to deal with some of the challenges, but it looked like they were on top of it, because today, at the voting stations, you had one place, you come in, you vote for president, and I think even the colors were a little bit different. For presidential, you used a white piece of paper, and I think for parliament, you had a paper that was maybe a little bit turning towards yellow or kind of beige-ish. So it looks like it went pretty smooth so far, I think.
Yeah. Let's talk about the opponents that Mr. Kagame is facing off against. These are two who are authorized to run. And I'm placing emphasis here because the understanding is that other candidates were barred from contesting. Just explain that to us. Why are others authorized and others unauthorized?
Well, that's a very good question, because we, again, brought it up yesterday when the chairman of the National Electoral Commission was giving a presser. We asked her, I myself asked her the question again, because some of these candidates, I think there were about 9 of them, and only 3 were retained. So the 3, including President Kagame, you had Frank Habineza, the Democratic Green Party leader, and you also have the independent candidate, Philippe Mpayimana, sorry. I've been practicing these names for weeks now, but I think I get it. So you had those. So there were 9 candidates, and in those 9 candidates, for example, you touched on it, one of President Kagame's fiercest critics, Diane Ruigara, was barred from running, and some of the reasons that were given, one of them is the fact that she didn't have all the 600 signatures, and you need 600 signatures, as the chair of NEC explained yesterday. But those 600 signatures, you can come in with 1,000 signatures, but they have to check. I think every district you have to, Rwanda has about 30 districts. So you have to have 12 districts, 12 signatures minimum from each district. And obviously you have to sign, you have the name, you have the ID number, and they have to verify all of those. So I asked her the question again, because I said I interviewed people who said, oh, well, she had enough signatures, and why was she being barred? And she explained that, listen, everybody had ample time. There was 5 years to get ready to bring whatever the requirements were, and they checked those requirements, and some of them were not able to pass the criteria, basically. So that was her explanation.
Yeah, let's talk about President Kagame then. He has been in power for 24 years. He's dominated that country's elections since he became president in the year 2000, and with almost every election he's basically won with a landslide majority, and the last one was in 2017 when he won with a staggering 99% of the vote. Do you think that he is liked by people? Because oftentimes the description around him is that he is a man who is feared yet admired in equal measure. Is that really how people feel about him in the country?
Well, I think, listen, President Kagame has been ruling Rwanda way even before the 2003 elections, before 2000. He came in. I think the people, his supporters, think of him as the person who ended the genocide, who took them out of the genocide, and who has brought, internal security, internal peace, stability. So that's how they look at him. And his supporters are really diehard supporters. Everybody, a lot of people that I interviewed, they talk about him. Like, I'll give you an example. I talked to one person today who said to me that he was 4 years old during when the genocide happened in 1994. And 30 years later, he says he will continue to vote for President Kagame because he has analyzed also how far the country has come. And they ask me the questions all the time. When I ask them questions, they go, well, don't you see, look at Rwanda, look at how Kigali is, look at how Rwanda looks like, look at the infrastructure, look at the development, look at this, look at that. So that's how they think of him. And President Kagame at a presser, actually, over the weekend when he finished campaigning, he talked about that. He said that he's been actually ready to go. He's talked to his party about, for them to look for somebody else. And that, the party keep asking him, and the people who want him to run, they keep asking him to run year after year after year. But he also, at the same time, he also talked about the fact he seemed a little surprised or a little bit kind of, I wouldn't say annoyed, but he said it wasn't fair. Those are his words, that people keep asking him, oh, when are you leaving? When are you leaving? When people who want him are the ones who are voting him into office. So it's a very, and the ones, we talked about the opponents earlier. Obviously, Habineza ran against him at the last elections. Philippe also did. They feel like they also want to contribute towards moving the country forward. They don't always criticize what he's done. They always say, listen, we want to keep what we have, but we want to also be given the chance to participate in developing this country. And when even the independent guy has, in his manifesto, he has 50 points where that he develops, all kinds of ideas, all kinds of innovative things, where he wants to work on so many different industries, from agriculture to fishing to education, all kinds of stuff. Frank Habineza is not that unknown. He was a member of parliament for years, and he talks about that. He talks about his record, that people know the things that he's done also for the country. So it's very, it's just like every side you talk to, you think that this side is the side that's right. But I think one last point, just before I let you ask a question, is that the thing I notice is a lot of people these days are thinking of Kagame because they listen to the West, or they listen to other the developed countries that says, oh, this is not democracy. The person has been there for 30 years. And so they think of that as, well, you shouldn't tell us what to do. If we like this leader and we are voting for him, then, it's working for us. So why should we change it?
Yeah. Well, to be fair to President Kagame, he is credited with transforming that country's economic landscape. The country has been stable, at least over the last 30 years. And one last question, in this country, we have a former governor who recently was a finance minister, who always raves about how clean Kigali is. That's the capital. Have you gotten an opportunity to go to other parts of Rwanda to give us a sense of what it looks like there? Because perhaps the capital might be clean, but what about the other parts? Now talking about the actual development of the country. Is that the same outlook for other parts of the country?
That's a very good question, actually, and I would love to be able to drive around and travel around the country. It's a beautiful country, no matter what, development or no development, because of these beautiful hills and mountains. And but yes, and that's a very good point you bring up, because I think there's a young guy that I interviewed who talks about the fact that he wishes that whoever becomes the next leader, that they create jobs for the youth, for example, and that some of them also feel like, yeah, a lot of things always happen in the capitals, but once you get out of the capitals, it doesn't always, travel further than Kigali. The farthest I've gone, though, is just, I participated in Habineza's one of his campaign rallies, and I just went about 2.5 hours. It's a little province called Gichumbi, and it's 2.5 hours, so it's very close. I wouldn't say it's as developed as Kigali was, but it's getting there. And one thing that I need to say about Rwanda, and I'm sure everybody talks about this, it's the cleanliness. I mean, it's really unbelievable how clean the city of Kigali is. I say that because I've lived in I've traveled in many African cities, European cities, American cities. So it's remarkable, really. And it's not a small thing, certainly.
Mariama Diallo, let me thank you very much for your time painting a picture of what it is like in Rwanda right now, the country yet again going through an election period, and she is describing the situation there. President Kagame, well liked by many, but let's see how in this particular election things are going to turn out.